Welcome back to Revital Fest. I'm so excited to be here with a man who is quite phenomenal. In the heart of the 1980 50. Sorry, my writing here is bad. In the heart of the 80s, the AIDS crisis in San Francisco, Dr. Michael Wool began his illustrious medical journey with groundbreaking work in HIV research that delivered profound insights into the disease's virology. He set the stage for numerous clinical trials, earning him prestigious accolades, including a National Science Foundation Award. However, beyond the accolades, Dr. Wool's deepest passion was rooted in providing solace and support to those who were afflicted. By 2015, pivoting to the world of metabolic health, he co-founded a revolutionary initiative with Stanley Ho. Together, they uncovered the transformative power of ketones, revealing not just a tool for weight loss, but a beacon for overall health and well-being. Welcome, Dr. Wool. It's such an honor having you here.
Good afternoon, Karen, and thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to your audience about the issues of ketosis and neurologic diseases and overall well-being.
Absolutely. Let's jump straight in. Let's talk about the transformative power of ketones.
Well, ketones are part of the energy system in our not only our bodies, the bodies of our ancestors, but the bodies of carnivorous animals. And in fact, in the 1970s, there were studies that looked at measuring biological energy creating processes within these wild animals, carnivorous animals. And they were found not just be similar, but absolutely identical. And later on, we demonstrated that maybe the way animals live their lives is a path that we should be following. And this has led to things like 16-8 intermittent fasting, the ketogenic diets. And as science, of course, has advanced, we are now looking at not just a ketogenic diet, but actually a phenomenon of ketosis.
Absolutely incredible. There's often this people confuse ketosis with ketoacidosis, right? Can you
Yeah.
just tell the audience? And so the ketogenic diet has gotten a bad name, and using ketones as a fuel has gotten a bad name. Let's just debunk that myth.
Okay, so that's the problem with the word keto. It's really been sort of distorted from its reality. Uh, Situation is in medical school, you were taught that ketoacidosis was a medical emergency. But in modern America and first world countries, ketoacidosis is very, very uncommon. It's most common in usually the pediatric population, which is discovered suddenly to have type 1 diabetes. But otherwise, in a modern society, except with the exception of toxicity of a few drugs, ketoacidosis is exceedingly rare in an internal medicine and primary care medical practice. Mainly people who see their doctor regularly should never risk being in ketoacidosis. And today we have much better understanding of ketosis because ketones represent the other side of the fuel equation in our body. Our body only has two ways to consume or actually produce energy, and that is either from glucose, with a specific kind of sugar, or ketones, or ketone bodies. Okay, and those are really the only two sources that the mitochondria, or the battery of cells, is able to produce energy, is either from glucose or from ketone bodies. And you really need the use of insulin to allow glucose to enter into mitochondria to produce energy. And the coin of energy produced by either fuel source is ATP.
Okay, let's go into ATP.
So ATP is the molecule or the coin of energy that our body produces. It's the amount that is produced from the 6 carbon molecule of glucose is considerably lower than the amount produced by ketones. So if you're talking about the quantity of ATP produced by ketones, it's about 40% more. And the reason for that is ketones are also known as the energy of starvation. That is, if you don't eat after a certain number of hours, your body starts, after using up its glucose storage, which is typically in the liver, it begins to use ketones, which are come from the breakdown of fat. And it actually means that the animal is, or the human is starving. And so, because ketones produce 40% more energy, it is the energy of starvation. And interestingly enough, your skeletal muscle, your heart, and your brain are the best places where ketones are used. Why is that? Because we need to hunt. And to hunt, we have to have more energy, more cardiac output, and the smarts to outfox the prey to obtain food in order to eat. And therefore, there is a teleologic advantage of ketones during starvation and if you have a fully fed animal and a fully starved animal in ketosis and they're about the same size and weight, the animal that's well fed is probably going to lose the fight.
That is so interesting. So, how does that translate to humans? And further to that, how did your interest get piqued in neurological diseases and exogenous ketones?
Okay, so if you think about our that whole activity, chasing one animal, chasing another one to kill it and eat it, okay, it is an activity of the neurologic system. Everything we do is electrical system. The voltage in your house is 120 volts. You flip the light on or you turn the switch and the light goes on, and if the voltage is not 120 volts and not so many amperes, which is the power, if it's not that, the light either doesn't turn on or it flickers or it might not be the right color. And similarly, your entire house, which is powered by 120 volts, your air conditioning, your dishwasher, your clothing washer, your television, and if you don't deliver 120 volts to that house, then the TV may be flickering or the signals aren't strong enough. Your telephone may not work. Our body is exactly the same, but the voltage is minus 70 millivolts. So our body is driven on 70 millivolts. And when you want to pick up a pencil or you recognize somebody as, being Karen Thompson, and, so you end up thinking as a result of this electrical signaling and communication. The right hand brain talks to the left hand brain, talks to the back part, which is the occiput. And you may see somebody on the street and you say, hi, Johnny Jones, because your eyes have seen it. And if these signals are not properly voltaged and properly powered, then there's confusion, changes in emotion, and depending upon where that loss of electrical signal is or diminution of the signal gives you a neurologic disease. So, to make that sort of complicated story simplified, if there is an area called the substantia nigra in the brain, and if you don't deliver enough voltage to those neurons, you get a disease called Parkinson's. If you don't see it, you get a problem in the frontal cortex. You may have problems with cognition, or early Alzheimer's or Alzheimer's. So if you look at various kinds of special scans, like PET scans, and where we can attach changes in metabolism to function, we see that areas of hypometabolism, or inability to get enough energy to that area, gives the disease of that area. So again, substantia nigra gets affected by hypometabolism, inability to deliver the proper amount of ATP, you get Parkinson's, okay, and so on and so forth. Strokes, the body tries to rebuild the energy system there. It's all simple electronics. It's nothing fancy.
Can those electronics be fixed?
Yes, and there's an emerging level of evidence now that our bodies can have its electrical system not only repaired, but enhanced, and performance can be enhanced. So I'll go back to my electrical wire analysis, okay? Let's say you've got a wire, and a regular wire, everybody knows, is usually a piece of copper covered by either rubber or plastic as insulation. In the brain, we have a protein wire covered by a fat sheath, because fat is not electrically conductive. So if you stuck your foot in a bucket of oil and you stuck an electrical signal, you're not going to be electrocuted, because the electricity won't go through the oil, and like it won't go through the rubber. Well, the neuron is a protein core wrapped by fat, and the brain is 92% cholesterol. 92% of your brain is fat, and it is the insulation for the millions and millions of miles of electrical wiring that's in this 10 or 15 pound box. So when we send an electrical signal and there's losses of that, either the protein or leaks in the fat layer, the electrical, the insulator, then the electricity bleeds out. And it can cause problems where there is a bleeding of electricity from one wire to the next. So instead of me seeing someone on the street and sticking my hand out and saying, "Hi, Homer Simpson," I may walk up to a parking meter, as in Tourette's syndrome, and think the parking meter is Homer Simpson and try to talk to it. And that's why people have derangements of thought, because they may be swearing when they're really trying to say, I need to open the telephone book, because the electrical signal bleeds out, and we have the loss of something called recruitment. Recruitment is where all these signals are coordinated to achieve a particular function, i.e., my eyes see something, the signal goes back to my occiput, or where the visual information is processed, goes to the front of the head, where it says, "Oh yeah, in my memory bank, that's Homer Simpson," and then going to the motor stripe to extend my hand. So you recruit these different areas of the brain to perform a unified function. And with time, recent article shows that after the age of 60, the ability of the brain to bring sugar in as a power supply begins to diminish. Maybe one of the contributing reasons why we have Alzheimer's, or intention tremor, or inability to focus, memory problems, association problems, even problems with verbalizing and hearing. So it's power. And ketones have been found to produce high amounts of energy without requiring insulin. It may be, as we age, maybe our body becomes more insulin resistant. We don't produce more insulin. The mitochondria doesn't like high levels of insulin. There's 1,000 reasons why the mitochondria, or the power bank, may not be getting enough electricity to cause this preponderance and fidelity of the neural signal to go from point A to point B.
That is fascinating. Okay, so then how, so somebody suffering from Parkinson's or any other neurological disease, and we've been told there's no hope. My mom suffers from Parkinson's disease. I've told you, I've shared this with you previously. And we just feel that there's no hope and there's nothing that can be done to help that patient. Is that the truth?
No, it's not the truth at all. And in fact, the situation is that glucose, sugar, has been studied for over 100 years. Ketones, the number of published articles on ketosis began back in the late 1920s and in 1924, in which the power of ketones was being recognized by a physician in its use to power to improve the signaling in people who have seizures. Childhood seizures were well controlled by starvation or fasting, and later on modified to producing high fat diets. So why is that? Because fat produces better energy, and loss of fat in the brain in certain drugs cause reduction of cholesterol in brain, may have a contributing factor. So as we look forward now in the last, since around 2014, 2013, scientists began to recognize the power of ketones, that it has the ability to power up the brain. And since then, the number of articles being published in PubMed is a vertical curve over the last 2 to 3 years. And major institutions across America, including the National Institutes of Health, have experiments going on looking at various positive wellness and disease modifying properties of ketones as part of the energy system. So, what I say is that in the very, very near future, there will be the edict that all physicians will be managing ketones in a patient just like we try to manage sugar. And we have the machinery. We have ketone meters just like we have glucose meters. We have continuous ketone meters, which are about to be released clinically in America. And we've been using continuous glucose meters. So if we have two systems of energy, we ought to be using both of them in the proper way. So one of the things that I think about in explaining this to patients and to various audiences is you have to think about, where are we going in America? We were on gasoline for 100 years, and suddenly we are starting to use electricity. And we have a car like the Toyota Prius. The Toyota Prius is a gasoline engine and an electric motor. And in between the two is a brain, the Toyota Prius brain of the car. And that car uh, optimizes the use of whether it's going to turn on the electric motor and the batteries or it's going to turn on the gasoline engine. And it does so in an algorithm that looks at maybe the driving style of the driver, the weight of a payload in the car, the ambient temperature, the turning speed, the acceleration need, and a whole host of other things. And therefore it optimizes the use of that fuel to do two things. One is to optimize the performance of the car. It also optimizes the longevity and maintenance of the car by switching back and forth the right fuel for the right job. We create the ability to use the engines at where they have the best longevity. Now, the difference between a human body and the car is that you drive the car, put it in the garage, take the key out, and it's off. Well, we don't go off. That's called death, right?
Right.
So, but we do have the two energy systems.
Yeah.
We have the clean ketone electrical engine, and we got the gasoline or glucose sort of dirty engine with insulin. Okay. And they go back and forth. And when the ketone engine is running, the sugar engine or the glucose engine's at maintenance. And during that, it's doing maintenance. It's throwing out all the debris. It's repairing little parts. It's replacing parts during that period. And then it spins up, the carbohydrate engine spins up, the ketone engine comes down and rests, and it cleans itself out, puts in new parts. And this phenomenon of cycling up and down is called autophagy,
Yeah.
which is important concept, something that probably in the United States is radically ignored, okay? Because we don't really cycle in and out, the autophagy, because we don't spend that much time in ketosis. One of the issues I have is that the average American will eat 300 pounds of sugar per annum. That's almost 3/4 of a pound a day. Number two, uh, the fact that we spend 92% of our lives powered by sugar and 8% of our lives powered by ketones. If you look at wild animals spend 60 to 80% being powered by ketones, and 20 to 40% powered by sugar. And why is that? Because animals have to hunt. They're actually always sort of starving, and they're always living off their fat fuel, as
Yeah.
opposed to us. We roll the window down and somebody throws a soda water, fries, and a hamburger into the car.
Yeah.
So as a result, we've just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger because the excess calories that we don't burn for activities, we store as fat. And we keep storing fat more and more and more every day. We don't burn it. So we really should be in this cycling for two reasons. One, to run the two different engines for longevity and wellness and low maintenance. And there's a lot of evidence to show that this is correct. If you follow animals, wild animals, carnivorous animals out, like a bunch of wolves from birth to death in Alaska, you find that if you stuck a ketone meter on them and a glucose meter on them and a GPS and you autopsy them, you find that 90% of them die of old age and disease free. That's after you take out the ones that were eaten, the ones that died of an infectious disease, or one that died of an accident, a rock fell on them or something like that. If you look at the same situation in humans, go to any American morgue and pull out 100 bodies, you'll find 90% of them have disease and 10% of them have no no evidence of disease. That is, they died of mechanical failure or old age. So 90% of Americans die with disease, 10% die of old age. The exact opposite is true in the animal kingdom of wild carnivorous animals. 90% die disease free, and 10% of them have cancer, diabetes, rheumatoid diseases, autoimmune disease, inflammatory asthma, and so on and so forth, which is very remarkable.
Truly remarkable. So what can we do to prevent this from happening? What are the lifestyle interventions that you recommend for us to switch more efficiently between burning these correct fuels and being more of a ketone user than a carb user or sugar
Right.
user?
So, this is an area of continuous evolution. So we went from classic ketogenic diet, which was developed for childhood
Yeah.
seizures, uh, to the Atkins diet, which is high protein, the standard American diet, which is 50% carbohydrates. Well, first of all, by act of Congress, the food pyramid has been flipped upside down.
Yeah.
Okay, a few years ago, the U.S. government realized that a 50% carbohydrate diet is actually wrong,
Yeah.
and so they have Department of Agriculture, Health and Human Services, and so on and so forth. All these regulatory bodies have abandoned the so-called original food pyramid, and so that's one thing that's already happened. Two, I think that carbohydrates are way overconsumed, and we should have a carbohydrate diet. It's not necessarily about a classic ketone diet or a classic Atkins diet. For sure, it's about not the standard American diet, which is also
Yeah.
known as the SAD diet, right?
Yeah.
The SAD diet, standard American diet. So I think restricting carbohydrates to probably less than 30 grams a day is probably very healthy for you. Now, if you choose to eat a higher good fat or higher protein diet, and I think flexing between those two is good, because it's probably in line with what wild animals do. And then third, uh, the idea of having intermittent fasting, which has gained tremendous popularity. And the reason why I think it's gained tremendous positive uh, adoption by the public is because, one, they probably feel good. People feel better on an intermittent fasting diet. Okay, two, they probably have better strength, better mental acuity, and they feel less inflammation. Their joints don't hurt as much. I mean, from various patients with autoimmune disease or inflammatory disorders, when they do intermittent fasting or they eat a low carb diet or a ketogenic diet or a intermittent protein diet, and keep the total calories at a reasonable amount, they all feel better. And that's from the patient side. From the doctor side, we measure things. We measure their inflammatory markers are lower, their ability to you know have all the physiology parameters better blood pressure, better heart rate, better strength, vision, all these things all improve when you're off carbs. So, but ketones being the other side of the formula, we want people to have access to their ketones. So uh, when you're not wanting to starve, you can actually drink bioequivalent ketones that have proper levels of electrolytes, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium. And these, quote, exogenous ketones are a very modern approach to helping the human body maintain ketosis at a greater percentage of their life, uh, as opposed to being powered all by sugar. Just like we want the Toyota Prius to go up and down in switching its right energy source for the right job, our bodies should actually do the exact same thing. We should be flipping back and forth between our energy sources and allowing the different engines to clean itself and to have the benefits of each type of fuel for longevity, wellness, disease management.
So, can we look at exogenous ketones as a supplement, a daily supplement that a person can take, or should
Yes, they are called supplements because they are naturally occurring compounds in the body. So ketone bodies, beta hydroxybutyrate being the dominant one, acetoacetate and ketone being the other, okay, or acetone being the other, sorry. Um, those three are the ketone bodies, but the majority of them are beta hydroxybutyrates. What the liver makes, if the liver takes medium chain triglycerides like coconut oil and you drink that, you get a certain amount of ketones out of it. Now,
yeah?
there are other oils that produce ketones as well. including animal fats and butter and all those sorts of things, will ultimately be processed by the liver and produce ketones, especially during a period when carbohydrates are not readily available or sugar's not available. So you can flip your system by withdrawing the carbs, and you'll force your body to make ketones. But the easier way to do it is, go get some ketones at the store and or from us, and drink them, and you will raise your ketone levels.
But that doesn't mean that somebody can follow an unhealthy diet where they're eating junk food and then they think, oh, I can just take like a ketone supplement to flip my switch back to
No,
ketosis, right?
yeah, that's exactly right. Um, okay, as far as eating processed and junk food, that's a whole other sort of discussion. But if you use ketones in conjunction with a lower carbohydrate diet, you will maintain your ketosis for a longer period of time. You'll also encourage your liver to make its own ketones. So you can get ketones by either drinking them or making them. And if you don't make them all the time, you can drink them and supplement them. So
I
I
do.
guess that's supplementation.
Right, absolutely. I just don't want. I've seen people in the past think that they can that exogenous ketones is this magic formula where they can just eat whatever they want, and the exogenous ketones is going to fix everything, which it doesn't. Right, which you've just
Right. It does not.
confirmed.
Yeah.
I
I
do want.
think,
Yeah,
yeah, I was going to say, you're exactly right about that. You cannot go eat pizza every day and hope to be in ketosis. But you can do this. You can eat a lower carbohydrate diet and be in ketosis, like zero point 0.5 and above is nutritional ketosis. Zero. There. Are you still there?
I'm here. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I lost you
Yeah.
at the pizza part.
Oh yeah. So let's start over. So what you can do, I'll count to three. So when you go out and eat a pizza, and you eat pizza every day, you're not going to be able to get in ketosis. But you can do the following: you can be in ketosis, all right, and you can eat a pizza and you'll be out of ketosis, but that doesn't mean you haven't lost your enzymes. So the next day, you just take some exogenous ketones, raise your ketone levels, suppress your carbohydrate enzymes back down, and you'll flip back into ketosis very rapidly. But if you eat pizza for 5 continuous days, then you're going to lose the enzymes that are making ketones and taking advantage of ketones, and your body will flip back to being dependent on sugar. So uh, there's some what we call nutritional forgiveness with exogenous ketones. That is, if you're drinking ketones, uh, then you can go have a pizza, a couple of slices of pizza. And I think we keep dropping. Oh, you're
I don't
running
know
out of
what's going
storage.
on. Oh, you are?
It says here I'm running out of storage. Upload recording.
Oh, yes,
Maybe
please.
I don't want to upload my recording, right? No.
Yeah, you
Okay.
do. I do need you to upload your recording. Okay. Um.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a lot of storage on this Mac. It's like the Cadillac Mac, so I'm not sure. Anyway, you can go back to the pizza. So you can eat pizza. You just can't eat pizza every day. It's just that because and in a modern life in America, you want to be able to enjoy your life to some extent. So I think with all these biometric devices, we can measure ketosis, we can measure heart rate, oxygen consumption. These are things that were relished to the Olympic athlete 25 years ago. And now there are so many biometric devices that talk to your cell phone, ketone meters, sugar meters, weight machines, fat metrics. We're coming to a point in our world today where it is really amazing that we can take this data that used to be only for Olympians and we can apply it to ourselves, whether you're wearing an Aura ring, a Apple
Absolutely.
Watch, all standing on a fat percentage scale. We can fine tune ourselves by how we exercise or how we use our bodies and what we eat for fuel. And this is what is coming in the future of healthcare in America, and that primary care physicians, not just in America, worldwide, are going to take advantage of these technological advances to be able to fine tune our health for longevity, wellness, disease management.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you, Dr. Wool. I really appreciate you joining me today. We feel so grateful to have you as a guest speaker at Revita Fest. Is there anything you want to say in closing? You have very kindly agreed to give attendees 15% off your product Keto 5, which they would have found in their virtual goodie bag. And we're so grateful for that. I think everyone feels super inspired to start burning ketones right now after this talk. So any closing words?
I just wanted to thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you and all of the people attending this conference. Um, Anyone can write to me at mwool@keto5.com, and I'll be sure to get an answer to you. But we believe that the science of ketones is at its infancy, and it's something that I believe healthcare healthcare professionals will be addressing to a greater degree as time goes on. And I wish everyone great health and longevity.
Thanks for everything you do, Dr. Wool. You are honestly such a gift.